Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just let you connect to your audio and then we'll get started in just a moment. Thank you, folks, for joining us. We'll get started with our conversation in just a minute. We'll let a few more people join in and get started. Make sure your audio is working, that you're all settled. In the meantime, folks, I will share a little bit of some of what's coming up for us at the JCC as you all get started. Of course, today is still here in America, it's still Yom HaShoah, and that's Holocaust Memorial Day. And like every year, the JCC is both doing the reading of the names, and that's being done virtually. And we were really pleased to once again have our Saviors on the Screen series virtually this year and share these three fantastic films with you. If you haven't seen all three, there's still some time. So check out My Name is Sarah, Love It Was Not, which is going on right now, which is the film that we're talking about right now. And Irmi, which will have its conversation at 7 p.m. tonight. There's still time to see them, so please check them all out. There's also a full pass to see all three films, but also you can watch them individually. So please be sure to do that today. It's a great way to commemorate. Next week is Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day, and we have a special film about Yitzhak Shamir, kind of a forgotten prime minister in Israel. The film's called Shamir His Way, and we'll actually have Shamir's son with us for a conversation. Coming up at the end of the month, we have our 13th annual ReelAbilities Film Festival. Be sure to check out that full lineup and join us for that. It's really one of the biggest events of the year. And you could see all of that at ReelAbilities.org/New York. And we hope you'll join us for that and help spread the word about all these wonderful events. Many more events coming up, and we're excited to share all of our May, June, and other events through the summer as we get closer. But now we're ready, I think, to start today's event, Love It Was Not. We're really excited to have here the daughter of, you know her as Rosa, her Hebrew name was Shoshana, Mickey Marin. Mickey, thank you so much for being here. Mickey also runs an art school with her husband in Israel called Bustan. And actually, and this is a great way to start us off, actually, Mickey met the director of the film, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today. She's not only running around doing many screenings, but has a newborn infant at home. So of course, this is a little bit of a challenging time. Oh, and before we get started and jumping into that, of course, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will call on you when it's time. So that's one way for you to be a part of this conversation as well. But I'll start off with a few questions, and wanted to mention. So, how did this all get started as a film? Mickey, the director of the film, Maya, was your student, you told me. And how did this film come about? How did she connect to this whole topic?
So, hi everybody. It's very exciting to be with you. And Maya was my student from the age of 5 till 18. She danced and did theater with me. And each time she didn't feel very well to do all the big jumps in the class and she wanted to relax, she used to go out and sit with my husband, Zevik. And he used to tell her in more details the story. I told my student the story about my mother, Shoshana, and Tzipora, my aunt. So she knew the basic, but my husband, Zevik, told her all the details. And she felt like it's her own story. She fell in love and she couldn't believe that this really actually took place. Many years after that, when she grew up, she wanted to make a novel out of it, but still my mother and my aunt were alive, and it wasn't so simple to do it, and she had to wait. Then Maya went to study in Tel Aviv University filming, And for her final year, she wanted to do a documentary, and she asked to do this film about my family. And we were readier. We were in a state, when I say we, it's me and my cousins, the son and daughter of Tzipora. We said, yes, let's go and let's do it. And then happened many, many amazing things. We got a call from the husband of the SS officer, his daughter Dagmar. They got in touch with us because Dagmar's husband wrote books about my mother and Tzipora. And he wanted to know what happened when they left Europe and came to Israel, and they lost touch with them. So suddenly I had connection with the second generation of the SS daughter, Dagmar, and we brought her here into Israel, into my house near Netanya, and Maya filmed a scene here in my house. So all of that was like destiny, and I couldn't believe it's happening, and that's how it happened, shortly.
Sorry, I was muted. It's such a fascinating story. It also, one of the things that this film does is it brings another perspective of the Holocaust that we don't often get to tell a story of relationships within the camps, as you know, as horrific as everything around it is, and to have a story of I feel like the film a little bit humanizes an SS soldier, and I think ultimately leads up to this moment of where Tzipora has to decide if this person is worth saving or not. And you know, is this something? Is it not often does an SS soldier call on a Jewish inmate to be somebody who will testify for them? And I find this to be really an amazing story and a fascinating ethical dilemma. How, growing up in this home, how was the story told to you? When did you first hear about it, and how was it conveyed to you on the personal level?
I was growing on all these stories. It's like, since I remember myself, I had nightmares that the Nazi soldiers are coming to take me too, like they took my sister. I heard about the stories about Tzipora and Wunsch, and it was like I all the time thought it's only a family story. Only we know about it. It's not a secret and nothing to be ashamed of or hide, but it's ours. With the years that I grew up, I understood that it's not only our story, and it's open to other people. But I want to say it was an amazing story, and for me, I just want to tell it from my own perspective. I have an image in my head, a picture like a movie. That my mother Shoshana and Aviva, my sister, and the little baby that didn't get a name yet are standing in front of the gas chambers. And suddenly Wunsch was sent by Tzipora, and he's calling my mother's name. And she's saying, here I am. He comes, he takes his coat off, he puts it on my mother, and he said, you come with me. And she's saying, I cannot go with you because I have my kids here. So he said, oh, you see this lady here, give the baby to her and you're going to be back. And she's going. Those horrifying moments that my sister that was actually born in Israel and was talking Hebrew, is standing there in Auschwitz and going by herself to her end with the baby is something that really handled my life since I was a child. From there, the story goes on that Tzipora didn't tell my mother what actually happened. She said the kids are in a kids camp. My mother found out. It was horrible. The second time Tzipora saved my mother was when they walked the death walk, and my mother couldn't walk anymore, and Tzipora took her, actually dragged her to a place, and they hid there. Then they arrived in Israel. I'm jumping many stories and many years and many things. And they both married and had wonderful families, which is, for me, we cannot understand that. Nobody. People that were not there in the camps cannot understand what happened. Suddenly, those two women that came from the dead, now they have families, they have kids, they have children. And, for me, that shaped my life. That story since I was a kid till this minute that I talk to you. And I try to do many things to be healthy and to get out of it. And I'm an artist, so I choreographed and I made shows, and I went to a psychologist, and I made this movie with Maya that it will be, for us to try and tell the story, and maybe that will cleanse the soul more. We're doing everything we can, the second generation, so we can live and reach those minutes that we can tell the story, that nobody can say, oh, that didn't happen. That won't be a person in the world that can say there was not a Holocaust. So, I just took you from, a road from my childhood to this point with that picture in my head that shaped my life and made me whatever I am now. It's amazing that our parents survived, and I want to say it's amazing the Dor Shani, second generation, is surviving too. Not simple.
No, and then people talk a lot about how the trauma has gone down beyond second generation to third and fourth generations as well, and it's definitely something that hasn't been completely cured yet. It's very interesting, of course, that it sounds like you've known the story since your childhood and knew everything. Some second generation don't. Their parents just kept silence and never shared their stories, or only shared it later on. It sounds like your family was very open about the story.
My mother was talking and telling a lot. For me to hear her was a bit difficult because of we were very, very close, my mother and me. And it was easier for me to listen to Tzipora, which she saw in me her הממשיכה שלה, her legacy. She couldn't go on stage. It didn't because it didn't come out. She didn't go. Her whole life she was an actress and a singer and a performer, but it wasn't on regular stage. And I was on stage all my life, and she said, I'm continuing her legacy. So it was easier for me to listen to Tzipora and to hear all the stories. And Tzipora lived for the moment that she can tell the story. She was like looking for the stage. She was in Yad Vashem. She went to Spielberg archives and she talked there. She went to the BBC in London. She went with kids from Israel to Auschwitz, and she made the Masa with them to go and she talked to them there. This was, she committed her life to that. And I was very, very close to her. We loved each other very much. Just to tell you, when I married my husband, Zevik, we went with Tzipora and her great husband, David. We went to Tzfat, to a hotel together to have a good time for vacation. That's how close we were. Mm-hmm. When I had my child, my first child, Or, I invited Tzipora to come and be with me and help me the first days, which I didn't let my mother, which it was too close and too hard for me. But Tzipora was here with my newborn. So we were very, very close. Although I owe my mother my whole life, I mean, she choreographed me. She made, in Purim, she made all the costumes for me, and she wrote the scripts, and no child in Netanya, where I live, could get a prize because I got the first prize of my whole life. And it was because of my mother. Then she sent me to dance, and I studied in Tel Aviv with the best teacher in Tel Aviv. Then I went to the army troop because my mother helped me to do it, and I became an actress. So everything that is my whole life was shaped by my mother, and my two daughters also, they follow her vision and what she hoped that will be. So this is my mother and this is Tzipora, and both of them were sort of my mother and the person that were very, very close to me, more than just a regular aunt. So I heard all the stories from Tzipora, and I knew everything since I was a child.
So let me ask you, from your personal perspective, why is it so important to tell? I mean, for you personally, I'm sure there's a lot of benefits to telling this story. But why is it important for audiences to hear this story today, now, this many years later?
I want to tell you, I thought I'm doing this movie for my grandchildren, that when they grow up, they'll know what happened to family. Now, I just believe that this movie is bringing a b'sorah,
a message?
A saying, a message, thank you, a message that love and tolerance can achieve anything. The love that Wunsch had for my aunt, Tzipora, was till the end of his life, and we know it because of many things, especially his daughter that was here and said that when she was 16, she got a locket that opened to her birthday, and one picture was of her father, and the other one was of Tzipora, not her mother, which is crazy. That how much that man loved my aunt. This story of love of two young people, like 19 years old, that came over, all the prejudice and all the terrible things that happened in Auschwitz, and they overcome it, is for me a message that love and understanding and listening can just do anything. And if I may go into politics, which I'm not a politician at all. Yes, I believe that what's happening here in our area, if we'll just listen to one another and reach out, we can live with our neighbors freely and wonderfully, because every person wants peace and quiet. He wants to be loved. He wants to be safe. He wants to raise his children or grandchildren and doesn't want to go into wars. And we need our politician to, to take it easy and to let us live. And I take my aunt's story and I take the story of now and I said, please, people, listen, be aware of what's happening. And we have proof, very simple proof that things like that can happen. So I don't know if I answered your question, but this is what I feel about it.
I think you did. I think it's you've made it clear how relevant this film is and the humanity in the film, how important that message is anywhere today, not just in Israel and not just in the context of the Holocaust. I'm going to ask 2 questions and then we'll take some questions from the audience. Folks, again, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat box. But you mentioned that you have a relationship with Dagmar, she is the daughter of, I'm forgetting his name, the SS officer. Bunch? Yeah. Bunch. Tell me more. I would love to hear a little bit more about that relationship and about any interactions that the family had with Munch's family as far as that relationship, both in reflection of the trial, but also in reflection of the relationship that was there.
First of all, I'll start from what happened now with Dagmar. Her husband, I said in the beginning, reached to us and he connected, and Maya connected him. And she invited them to come and she talked about the movie and she agreed to come and we met in my house and I met a beautiful woman, blonde, great looking, very civil, very gentle. She brought wine and crystal glasses and we drank together. And for a moment I forgot what the story is all about. And then I said, wait a second, we are here for another reason. And I took her into my bedroom where I have my sister's picture, Aviva, and I showed her a picture and I said, look, Dagmar, this is my sister, Aviva. And she said, oh, it's terrible. Dagmar has two kids. She had a third one who died from an illness. And I said, listen, to lose a child is a tragedy, but your kid died from an illness. My sister was murdered. And she collapsed. And it was terrible. She ran out of the room and it was terrible. And she said, I had a great father. My mother kept us very safe and she didn't tell us anything about what happened in the camps. We didn't know. And I said, oh my God, this woman who stands in front of me is saying that she didn't know that her father was an SS officer. So this was horrible for me. And I couldn't take I couldn't be civil anymore and normal. And I said, I want to talk. I want you to tell me. I want you to really talk to me. It's not just, we're meeting for lunch and it's fun. So it was very difficult, that meeting. And I want to say about the trial. Her mother, Dagmar's mother, sent a letter to Tzipora and asked her, as a woman to a woman, as a mother to a mother, please come and to the trial and try to say what happened because my husband saved you and your sister. And Tzipora said that she's going to go. It was terrible here. That time was very difficult. All her friends that came from the camps were against it. She was
Threatened.
She was threatened. They had to put a policeman near her house to guard her. And she was so brave, she went to the trial. And she said the truth. She said he was a terrible SS person who did terrible things, but he was great to me. He saved me, he saved my sister, he saved many women around me that asked me for help, and I asked him. And I think, Tzipora said, I think I changed him a little bit, but he still was a very sadistic SS person. Maya made a deep research about it, and she says that in Austria, that period of time, the atmosphere was that, first of all, they don't put to trial people who were SS people, and those who were caught, like Wunsch, and put on trial, most of them were released. So Tzipora's edut testimony was not really relevant to what happened there. He was released not because she said he was good to me and my sister. Many other SS people who didn't have Tzipora to talk good stuff on them as well were released. This was the atmosphere in Austria, and even till today, nobody goes to trial there. So this is about. I hope I answered your question.
I want to ask a complicated question, and hope this is okay to ask. In some ways, it's thanks to Wunsch that you're alive. He saved your mother's life. Does that create any kind of mixed emotions or any kind of gratitude? Was there anything like that maybe his daughter was expecting from you?
I don't know what she was expecting. I think he was an SS person who had to be punished. Still, if he wouldn't save my mother and Tzipora, I wasn't here talking to you today. So when Tzipora went to trial, it's not like anybody asked me, and I was very young then, but I thought she did well. I thought she should go and she should say the truth. And she was brave and she did it. And I still want it. I don't think Dagmar thought that we have to forgive her. I don't think so. There were many other things that happened here in the house that I'm not going into details now, because I don't think you have like 2-3 hours to listen to all my stories. That made me believe and understand how horrible the situation was there. Even when she told it, she didn't understand what she's saying to me, how horrible it was. I'm talking about Dagmar, his daughter.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I'm going to ask one more question, then there's some questions from the audience. But I wanted to know, the film won the Dak Aviv Film Festival and was already presented in Israel. Have there been reactions in Israel that, on a personal level, that have been reaching you?
It was like a big excitement here. I got phones and emails, and people reached me that I'm going to be, it's a big secret, I'm going to be 70 on Saturday. I have my birthday.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So people who know me 50 years ago wrote me and called me that they saw the movie and they thought it was me, and they were so excited. We were like, packed with phones and messages. And the other thing was, not only to me, to Maya, of course, and my uncle and my cousins as well. suddenly I became an expert for the Holocaust. And everybody wanted to tell me his story and how we can make a movie, how we can bring his story to the knowledge of people. So it was a nice, but for a few days I had to shut my phone and not to answer to people because it was a bit overwhelming, this story. And I needed a little bit peace and quiet, but people loved the movie, and I want to say that it's such an artistic movie, and the way Maya presented it is just genius and great and wonderful, and we couldn't wish for a better movie for our story, and a better person like Maya and Neil did.
It's amazing that, I mean, first of all, your family was so good at telling the story clearly that there was enough footage, enough archival footage to create. And of course, also the use of animation was a beautiful, the stop motion, I think to call it. And it was extremely artistic and a beautiful way to tell the story and to make it all clear and very cohesive. So yeah, I agree that I think it's a beautiful story. I want to take some questions from the audience. We're going to start with Janet. Janet, you're on the line.
Thank you. I wanted to know, did the two sisters ever reconcile and make up and talk to each other before their deaths? Because in the documentary, they talk about the big fight.
I want to say that my mother and Zipporah were very, very, very close. They were like Siamese sisters. After what they shared together, it's only natural that this is what happened. And of course, because the way the kids died, and my mother was devastated, the only person she could be angry was Zipporah. And she said, I'm very angry at you, and you will not know peace in your life because you let my kids die without me. I never saw my mother and Zipporah fighting. I never saw them in tension. Just once in my life, that was some kind of a party in the house, and they were outside on the porch, and I was, on the side, and I heard them, which Zipporah said, please take the curse away from me, which for me was like, what does she mean? I never heard about it. And then I realized what it was, and it was amazing for me. But this was the only minute that I saw that there was tension between the two sisters. They loved each other, they were devoted to each other. The two families, we were together all the time as children. Zipporah and David, her husband, were very close to us, as I said before. We never realized as kids or grown-ups that there was any problem there. They loved each other very much. I hope I answered.
Thank you. I want to take a question from Arlene. Arlene, you're on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the movie was just very captivating, was great. I just have a question. You mentioned that that the Zipporah and what's his name, the guard, the Nazi guard, whatever his name was, Chuch, really loved each other. I understand during horrible situations, people, do what they have to do to stay alive. And I totally get that. But do you really think Zipporah loved Mooch after what he did to the Jewish men? He beat them when he didn't have to. He could have, he could have extended his decency if there was decency to the others as well. Do you think she really loved him under the circumstances and, knowing what he's all about?
I think the love, to talk about love as we know it and understand it between a Jewish girl and an SS officer is like, זה לא יכול להיות מאוזן, לא יכול להיות...
Can't be balanced.
Can't be balanced because she's an, oh my God, my English, I'm sorry. She's a prisoner and he is an officer, and if you want something, he can get it. And there is not a balance between those two. I think he loved her, like I said before, till his last day. I think in the end, Tzipora had some feelings to him, but when I believe it, when she arrived in Israel and she married David, who was a marvelous person, and she had her family, I think she left all that behind her. He never left, he never stopped loving her. She was in a different place, definitely.
And I think the title of the film is gives it all away a little bit, and the bottom line of it all. First of all, I want to thank you for being here with us today. I want to thank also Oded, who is helping distribute this film. The film is planned to have a release in November. Folks, please tell your friends, get the word out about this important film. I think it's a very worthy film, and should get a lot of great attention. I think there's also some great Oscar potential for this. So please do spread the word. Of course, I have to always say that I think the power of film to keep these stories alive and to pass this on to more generations is really something that this film is just a great example of, and something that we are so privileged to have these stories and for people to share these stories and to be able to experience these stories in such an artistic and beautifully done way. And it's so important for us to be able to, I think, reflect on these messages and, as you said, keep them relevant to today. And I think this film is really a perfect example of that. So thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for being a part. At 7 p.m. tonight, we have the screening of Irmi, the conversation of Irmi. Please check out the film before that. And we look forward to seeing you all at more events. Thank you very much and have a good rest of your day. Laila Tov in Israel.
Laila Tov, thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you.